Just a warning before you continue watching, we are going to be talking about racism, homophobia, ableism, among a bevy of other things, emotional, mental abuse. So if that's not your cup of tea, click off now. If you stay, thanks in advance for watching. Appreciate your support. Let's do it. What's going on, everybody? This video's kind of been a long time in the making, I guess, because I've had it on my to-do list for a minute, just to make a video kind of going over the current issues plaguing the Sonic community. And of course, they aren't about the games themselves. They're not about the community. They're not about the multimedia. Nope. It's all about the racism and the secret phobias that are persisting in the community, and they've been there for a minute. And I think this whole notion that everybody has that if you don't talk about it, it will go away, and that has been shown time and time again to not be the case. Usually when people see that they can just do and say whatever they want with no repercussions, that usually enables them to keep doing and saying what the fuck they're doing, because they're not afraid of anything. That being said, a situation presented itself this week with Lang. You may know him as Mr. Lang, the Great Lang, where he has been saying some not so cool things about a lot of groups and a lot of people, and that has culminated into this video that you're about to watch. And I have screenshots of everybody that tweeted or spoke out, Discord chats, so there's a lot to go in for. There's even some links that are no longer there because of the harassment that these people faced from some of Lang's agents, and those have been archived, thankfully, and I got my hands on those, and those will be in the descriptions. I'll point them out again in the video when it happens. But it's actually a lot. I don't know how long this video is going to be, so I'm not going to tell y'all, hey, it's going to be a quick one. These are real issues. These are real problems that are plaguing the community, and that the community doesn't seem to know how to get rid of, and especially when it's coming from somebody who has such a storied history in the fan community as Lang himself. So for the less informed, Lang is the creator of a Sonic fan game called Sonic Utopia. You run around open world as classic Sonic. It's a pretty empty world because it's more or less just a tech demo, which is fine. But, you know, like most good things, it got some traction, got some fans behind it that supported it. And that in itself isn't the problem. The issue is the working conditions behind the game, what Lang has done and said to the people that worked on his game, overworking, mental abuse, emotional abuse, manipulation. There's a lot. So I'm gonna just dive straight into it. So this first slide is of some Discord chat between him and another user. It's in a channel, I'm assuming it's called Hall of Neptune, in Lang's Discord, but it reads as follows. You can pause to read. I'm just gonna read what's important and then talk about it. He says, I will say nigga if it's for some practical reasons, such as in this context, discussing the usage of the word. I think it's ridiculous for a word to just be not allowed to be said ever, like it's dark magic. That kind of shit is dogmatic brain rot behavior. I will not, however, use it against someone as a slur, and won't use it for interaction unless I know others are comfortable with it. Now, he tries to clean it up at the end by saying, yeah, I won't use the bad one, and I won't even use the good one unless I'm in the proper company. It's one of those words where if you don't understand its historical context, or you weren't affected by its historical context, you wouldn't get why we as black people don't want to say it. Because I never hear cisgendered people clamoring to say, you know, the F slur or the T slur. I'd never hear arguments for that, for why they should be able to say that. Like, and it's a very entitled and disingenuous take to say, Oh man, out of all the billions of words in language that we can't use this one, and that's an issue. That's what we're gonna take. Is how hard is it to not just say one thing? Like it's really like elementary, honestly, to be like, well, I think that I should say it, even though this word has never affected me or anyone in my family in a negative way, so they wouldn't get the historical connotation of the reclamation of the word. And we're all adults, man. It's the internet. Like, I'm not gonna give y'all a lecture at this point. If you don't understand it, you're trying not to understand it, and that's your path to walk. But people do not have to accept you walking that, especially in this context, especially in this community where there are a lot of impressionable people, some under the age of 20, that think that because somebody in the community that has, you know, a little bit of tenure is doing and saying shit, that's all good and well, and nobody's ever gonna do anything about it, because you're gonna end them up in some bad situations. Like, I'm pretty sure every black person has some type of story where they've dealt with either overt racism or casual racism, or just, you know, fucking subtle aggressions. And if you don't belong to that camp, just don't fucking say it, man. It's safer for you that way. Here is a completely different chat that basically, I think he was on some like either eugenics or phrenologist shit. Because there's one user that's like, he says, if you tried to mitigate tribalism, then that is quite literally the same thing as letting all Muslims into Europe because we're all the same, or not having a lock on your door because who's going to steal things from my house when we're all the same? Tribalism is just a swear word of compartmentalization. And why are Muslims the way they are? Because they're inferior genetically, ideologically, and spiritually to most of the rest of the world. The latter things you listed may be a result of the first. If genetics were normalized and idealized, these cease to be problems. This is incredibly white nationalist. That's why I made the thumbnail what I made it, because I thought it was just, you know, the usage of the N-word at first, but no, it's full-blown white nationalism, white utopia 1488 HH shit. And this is not somebody that bodies the ideas of the character that they claim to like. We've said it hundreds of times, we'll be saying it hundreds more most likely, but like, you cannot actively or passively oppress or hate people and be a fan of a character whose entire personality is the direct opposite of that. Like, it's just hypocritical in its own sense. And this isn't even about the games. It's brought up to the games because he's a part of the community and people recognize who he is because of the work that he's done on fan games. And that's not an excuse. Like, there have been multiple instances recently, especially, of like different users, some prominent, some not, either espousing like white nationalist ideas or some super alt-right rhetoric, and then going back into their echo chambers, which is their discords, where everybody's just all cool with it. It's like, cause hey, he made that one thing that I like, therefore he can do no wrong. Here, these two slides, or these two screenshots, are just him using autism or autistic as an insult, probably because somebody had a difference of opinion to his. They didn't provide a lot of context for this one, but I don't think there's ever really an appropriate time to use that as an actual insult. Like, I have several autistic friends, and you know, we make jokes like that because, you know, we belong to that group. We understand the context and the scenarios in which to make those fucking jokes. We get it, basically. And I'm telling you now, like, you would save yourself a lot of trouble if you don't belong to the group. Don't use the slurs. It's literally that simple. Because again, using gay friends as example, they call each other all types of slurs all day long because they understand it. They get it. I, as a woman kisser, and sometimes as a man kisser, also use said slurs against my friends in that community. Like, now, if you are heterosexual, you will never get called that, just because it's a respect thing. Like, I wouldn't do that. Same thing with my transsexual friends. They call each other all those slurs. You know the ones, you know the slurs, but they call themselves that. And when somebody that's on the out group says things like that, it's hurtful. It's odd, like it's very weird. I feel like I'm talking, and I probably am talking to a bunch of children, but like it's very weird. It's like, to put it into context, like, let's say you and a friend of yours came up with like nicknames for each other that only y'all say, and then you hear somebody else call your best friend that nickname. Wouldn't you feel at least like a little fucking jaded, just a tad bit slighted by that fact? And that's keeping it tame. That's a tame example. But those are just a couple of examples of, the type of person that Lang is. Like, I know his defenders, and most likely my Discord will soon be filled with the Mr. Lang Defense Force. Hey, he hit buttons good, so I will lay my life on the line for him. I know y'all are coming. You will not stop what I'm saying. You will not change anything. Leave your comments. I appreciate the free engagement. But that's just the type of person that he is. Or at the very least was up until last week when all of this shit started coming out. And I'm honestly of the mind that there's a very small sect of people that are beyond redemption. And it could happen possibly in the future that, he does learn and actually make a change and actually make a conscious effort. But until then, we're dancing on. Furthering the proof that Mr. Lang is at the very least, prejudiced, there were some instances from his 2015, keep that year in mind, Sonic 2 playthrough, and I'm gonna run those clips for you in succession. It's about 4 clips. It'll go by pretty quick, but this, I want everybody that was not around or not cognizant in the early 2000s, around the time of things like Chappelle's Show or Whitest Kids You Know, or God, there was another one like Crank Yankers, the super edgy episodes of South Park, to understand that around 2015, this particular style of content and humor had already pretty much been replaced, because everybody, I'm not gonna say everybody got more tolerant, because if they had, I wouldn't be making this fucking video, but everybody, that style of humor went out of style. Let's just say that it went out of style in the mainstream, because you could still say and do all these things and have an audience, as evidenced by the smooth brains in Lang's Discords. Ooh, I can hear those keyboards clicking away. But you could find an audience and maintain an audience. And 9 times out of 10, most people get the jokes. But the pesky thing about jokes is they have to be funny. And I want you, both Lang defenders and detractors, in the comments to tell me how many times you laughed during any of these 4 clips. Roll that shit.
Ranged flash, a man of lemony tint stepped forth and pierced me with his thin knife-like eyes. He shouted at me in his chinky gobbledygook, what with his chings and chongs and gibberish that would make even the sanest of men turn mad. His voice resonated with a familiar Amidst his incoherent gook babble, he thrust a spatula into my hand and pointed at an apron. At last, my life would be complete. He rushed out of the kitchen, screaming in his ancient tongues, and chased me out of the restaurant. In a dazed sprint to escape, I couldn't anticipate the placement of the door and jumped through the window, tearing in the dryer with all my other socks. I'm beginning to suspect he's a white supremacist. I mean, he wears the white robe, or he sort of is one, I guess, and he keeps making all those weird comments like,
"Someone should really do something about all those filthy kites."
I guess guess I should have put 2 and 2 together. I used to have another sock puppet. His name was Blackie. I'm not sure what happened to him. That reminds me, I think I remember there used to be that television series where homosexuals try to make straight people gay. Well, I felt this created an unfair imbalance, so I planned my own opposite television series about making gay men straight. It's called Fags to Bitches. Oh shit, it's Jamal. Hang on, give me a minute first. Not now, Jamal. I'm doing a video for that there internet. You know, you'd probably know about it if you weren't living in a goddamn cave. No, I'm not paying you back for the Tuba Festival. That was your idea, Jamal. Why do you even care about money anyway? And out there in the Pride Land slapping your little tiki bongos all day. You know what, Jamal? Why don't you go back to your little bungalow in the savannah and keep pretending civilization doesn't exist, all right? My God, Dr. Robotnik.
I just wanted to let that shit marinate for a second. Like that step back you did, where you furrowed your eyebrows, that sinking feeling in the middle of your chest, right between your diaphragm and heart, means you know that is not comedy, that is racism. Those were nothing in that was funny. Like not even in the slightest. And I laugh at some dumb shit, some dark shit. And that's not funny to me. Like nothing there. It's funny in the fact that it exists, and like you could just tell that he thought that he was killing it. That it's fucking racist. Like, what do y'all not get? How are there people defending this? That is just straight up racism. Even in 2015, that would have been looked at, you know, people would have cringed at that. And again, I'm turning 32 in a fucking week. 6 days now. Five, holy shit. 5 days now. So I've been aware and present enough for most of the comedic stylings of at least the late 80s all the way up until now to understand, you know, what was funny, when it was funny, and what wasn't. And that shit would have got you side-eyed in like 2010. And here you are, not 8 years removed, making cringy racial humor to the public. Again, I want the defenders to explain to me how that's funny. Now, if you're under the age of 22, which I know you are because you work for Lang, put your fucking hands down and remove them from the keyboard. Moving forward with our indictment of Lang, we actually have some info and a little back and forth from the creator of the Spark the Electric Gesture series, as well as Sonic Before and After the sequel, Lake Feppard, who didn't take too kindly to Mr. Lang. Again, pause to read, but basically Lake is saying before the sequel, he gave Lang his source code for reasons that he can't remember, and he made changes and told him to use them in the game. He refused because obviously it's Lake's source code and he didn't want to use the changes, and Lang basically tried to pressure him or bully him into using the changes, and they didn't really fit Lake's vision for the game, which is fine. It's his game, he can do that. But this is what happens when you get a little bit of power, you give a little man big power, and they go fucking insane every time. He does not have the obligation to use any changes that you make to his game at all. Like that's not how this is working. Again, pause to read, and he continues on, says that Lang has acted and spoken like this with several minors. Sonic Overture started as a small project, and he infiltrated and went on to abuse its members to create something that he wanted. Overture crashed and burned, and everyone he knows has been a part of it has been burned and abused by Lang, some of which were minors. Now, if you want proof, well, I can't give any. And Lake actually added context to this, because it's not that he doesn't have it, but he isn't authorized by the people that are involved in it to give out their story, their info. That's what he meant when he said that. Like, I swear to God, it's always the classic purists that do that shit. And before you type your comment, because I know your knuckles and digits are ready to pound down on those Cheeto encrusted keyboards, I need you to eyes up, heads up, because you might not have learned this in school yet. It's called reading and listening comprehension. I said classic purists, not classic fans. I like classic Sonic. It's cool to like what you like, but when you think that one thing is the only thing that the thing should be, and any deviation from that is met with your ire, here's what you do. You disengage with the franchise. If you think that Sonic should have never gone 3D, all of the 2D games are right there, ready and available. There are plenty of fan games. If you don't like the classic games, you have 25 years worth of other games to play. Like, people can coexist, right? Like, there are classic fans which don't mind the newer games, and if they do, then they aren't a dick about it. Live and let live. But there seems to be this weird minority, the classic purists, that think everybody except them is settling for mediocrity in their esoteric, dry, ironic chuckles at any new thing that Sonic Team puts out. Leave the franchise, or just play the things that you like. This is not a novel concept. Like, you're like those old people that think that only the music that came out when they were kids and teenagers was the real music and everything else is just trash. And that's an opinion you can have, but I don't have to give a fuck. Like, you don't like new Sonic, neat. Why are you talking about how much you don't like new fucking Sonic? You want to play the classic games, get a Genesis, get an emulator, buy Origins Plus, whatever. Like what you like and shut the fuck up about it. But we cannot forgive the racism and workplace abuse. That's never cool. So much so that one playtester for the original Spark that came out in 2017 had some type of anxiety attack. I don't want to say a breakdown because it's not a breakdown, but just watch.
I want to block Lang. Stop messaging me. I don't care anymore. I just don't want to argue anymore.
Literally or figuratively? Or both?
I want to block Lang. Stop it.
Wait, is he PMing you?
He wants to work with me, and I'm like, dude, I don't want to work with you. And he's like making several points why he should work with me. He's not like the way he was before. He's different now. I'm like, no, I don't believe you. I don't.
Now, does that sound like someone who enjoys their boss and the way that they are treated? I don't think so, but I could be wrong. I'm not wrong, but I could be, but I'm not. And it just goes to show, man, Lang has been like this for years. Spark came out in 2017, which means that video was probably from 2016 or 2017, and that person is saying that he said the same things that Lang is saying now about, I'm not like that anymore, I'm not like that person, when these screenshots are as recent as 2 years ago. These tweets started from an incident that happened 4 days ago. So nothing's changed, which is why I'm even here in the first place, because there have been a couple of creators, this one being arguably the most consistent, and not in a good way, when it comes to being a cancer in the community and just being part of things that people enjoy. It's very odd. It's a very odd place to be in as a fan of the franchise, because these are the types of people that will tell you, if you ignore it, just go away. Why would somebody doing something wrong want everybody to ignore it? I wonder why. I wonder why the criminal wants you to ignore people suspiciously walking around homes in your area. I wonder why that's the case. Get at me on that. And this is great that this was the last tweet made 4 days ago about this until recently. Lake says it doesn't matter how right you are when speaking to him. You can make 10 right points and 1 bad one, and he'll attach himself to the bad point and ignore all the other stuff completely. That is textbook narcissism, textbook diversion, textbook, or not textbook straw manning, but it's a form of straw manning. You're never attacking, or you're never rebutting the things that somebody said that were accurate or correct. You want to find and microanalyze the one thing that they did wrong, which speaks a lot because, like I said, Lang is a classic purist. So it makes sense that, you know, you would ignore all the good and find the one thing that sticks out and treat it like it just tears the other 10 good things down. And this is funny because just yesterday, so I decided to actually do this part live because I know the echo chamber is gonna be here. It's like, oh, those are edited screenshots taken out of context. Yeah, eat my dick. So Lang is talking to people in his Discord, telling them that he can confirm that Lake was never part of Overture, doesn't know the dev history. He claims that there's no evidence to any of these claims. He takes this part out of context. Remember what I said earlier, because Lake clarifies above, and we're going to go to that. And he says Lake ran a community full of minors. This is projection. Extremely aggressive towards them, certainly more than I ever was. He was openly bigoted, spouted alt-right humor, used the N-word far more than I did, a whole bunch of fucked up things. And this thread is on archive of sorts. It was posted on September 13th, so go check that out. In Lake's response, Lake posted a response to everything that Lang said in his original post, and he has screenshots of a bunch of people saying the hard R or the N-word. He's calling him out about the SFGHQ. He's admitting to when he was younger having said it. And again, we came to learn that he's Brazilian and they basically don't teach any US history. So he wouldn't understand. He would just be doing what everybody else was doing around him. And even he admitted that it's fucked up and he hasn't done anything like that to my knowledge since. So good on Lake for that. And he goes down here to say that he's still friends with some prominent members who have quit Overture and spoken at length about its toxic development. But surely after this thorough cooking by the majority of the smart section of the Sonic community, Lang would be repentant, right? Nah, that's not how this goes. You know that's not how this goes. Why would you even expect that? Of course not. Pause to read because it is lengthy, but essentially in his apology, he says he got dangerously close to the alt-right pipeline. He was just saying things in those messages to open discussion because he wants to be dialogue man and open dialogues. And he opened himself up to criticism by saying those things that he said, and he's not like that anymore. So let's go point by point. Anytime you have a discussion with anyone ever about anything, you open yourself up to criticism. That is not an excuse for using racial jargon or espousing nationalist or supremacist ideas. Of course, like what's the dialogue? I believe that people that don't look like me are genetically inferior. Autism is bad. Like what dialogue is there to be had, brother? Like clearly most sane people are gonna have the opposite opinion, and like saying incendiary things or blatantly harmful things and then having people respond to you in kind is not a dialogue. That's not at least not in the context that you're trying to use it. You didn't say that shit to start a dialogue, man. you haven't said those things to start a dialogue. And even then saying back then like it was so long ago, brother, there are things from this year that I've shown off tonight. There are things from 2017, 2021, as far back as 2010. 13 years. You have either been a terrible person to work with, a controlling perfectionist, or straight up racist. Like that is 13 years. Like I usually follow the ideology of once is a mistake, twice is a choice, after that it's a habit, and 13 years is seeming more like a way of life than a habit. That's the next step after that. That's just who you are currently. I'm not saying you won't ever change. I personally think that everybody has the capacity to change. Like I said it before, I don't believe there's a very specific set of criteria for me to think that you are beyond hope, and I usually treat those people like they're beyond hope. But it's very hard for you to make a case when there's at minimum 13 years of consistent proof and behavior where on your best days, you know, you're a piece of shit boss that wants it his way or the highway, and you're willing to manipulate and groom minors into doing that for you because of your tenure and your status in the community. And on your worst day, you're the second coming of Big Adolf. So there's not much for anybody to go on to believe that you would actively make the change or want to make the change. And I know that you're gonna send your people here because there are 2 documents that I didn't talk about in this video because they're long as hell, and they're basically a timeline of experiences from those 2 people from 2017 all the way up to, I believe it's last year, 2022. And they highlight in detail, in lurid detail, the things that you have done to them or said to them. One of them deleted their account because of harassment from the peanut gallery, and I'm here to tell y'all right now, come to the comments, come to the videos, come to the Discord. I don't care. I am not going anywhere. Me and my Discord are not going anywhere. Me and the fans of this franchise are not going anywhere. Me and the people that are opposed to any type of oppression and bigotry are not going anywhere. Say what you gotta say, man. I don't care. If you come starting shit in my Discord, I'll just ban you. YouTube comments, different section. I don't care, because I'll go back and forth with you. Although to me, the sensible person would see everything highlighted here today and in these links in the description, and at the very least consider their relationship with Lang to some extent. But I don't really have anything else. I think the job's done. I think the job's finished. I appreciate you guys supporting me, listening to me for half an hour talk about this, but it needed to be said. Racism has no place in this community. We're all here to enjoy a franchise, and if you can't do that and be a decent person, you don't need to be here. Just straight up. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.